All right. All right, welcome back to the channel. I hope we're ready for a good week. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Let's do this. Let's have a good one this week. Today is Monday, which means yesterday, of course, was the Lord's Day. I hope you had a good one. I definitely did. We had church, we had our worship service, great sermon, all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, we also had a fellowship meal this past Sunday, which was great. It was a good time and all of that. And actually, I wanted to share a joke with you because I told it during church, just to my immediate area. I wasn't like leading worship or anything. I was just sitting in the pews. But only one person heard it, so I thought it was pretty good, so I want to share it with you. So what happened was, my one of the pastors of the church was talking about our fellowship meal, and he said, look, if you're visiting, you're welcome to come to the fellowship meal, even if you didn't bring anything. Come on to the fellowship meal. We're good Baptists. We have enough food for everybody. And everybody kind of laughed at themselves. And that's a Baptist joke. Baptists like to eat food. And so I kind of waited till the laughter died down, and I said, yeah, but they don't have any beer. And the guy in front of me, he laughed. He thought it was really funny. And it's funny because he's actually the one other Presbyterian at the church. So he gets it. He understands what I'm talking about. The joke is that Presbyterians like to drink. Actually, I've cut out all alcohol for the last few weeks, probably like 4 or 5 weeks. And I got to say, it wasn't like a heavy drinker or anything, but I feel great. I really do. I feel like I have a lot more energy. My heart rate has gone down considerably, which is interesting. I wasn't expecting that. But it could also be that I'm kind of like doing some intermittent fasting too. Like I'm not eating as often. You know what I mean? I'm waiting a little bit later in the day to eat and stuff like that. So maybe it's just the intermittent fasting. I don't know. But all in all, pretty good. Pretty good. In any case, I wanted to do a quick video about vaccines because I saw that dude, that guy Samuel or Saul or something with an S, I think. The guy who wrote the Dilbert comic. Oh man, he is just obnoxious. One of the most obnoxious people I've ever come across. And his whole thing is he got the vaccine, right? And at the time he was very much like, get the vaccine, believe the science, that kind of thing. And of course, now that the data is coming out and it's like, yeah, this vaccine really doesn't do anything good. In fact, it might actually hurt you. He's basically saying, look, at least he's actually admitting it. See, some people are just refusing to admit it. They refuse to accept the new research that says, this is actually damaging. He's at least admitting it. But what his whole thing is like, you guys that are anti-vaxxers, that's the new term. If you didn't want to get the COVID vaccine, you're an anti-vaxxer, which I think is actually accurate. I think most people that refuse the COVID vaccine and now are seeing like the damage that it's doing, I don't think any of us are going to get a vaccine again. I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to get a vaccine again. I'll tell you that much. In any case, so he's like, you guys were just lucky. You guys were just lucky. It was a coin flip. That's the new kind of narrative. You guys were right, but you weren't right because you're smart. You're just lucky. It was a coin flip, and you guessed heads, and it turned up heads, and I guess, so good luck. You won the coin flip. Good job. And it's like, it's this whole idea to kind of justify his decision. He's like, look, if you're doing a coin flip, you got a 50-50 chance, which I've actually heard that's actually not true. It's a little bit better than 50-50 depending on what side the coin flip starts. Anyway, that's beside the point. He's basically saying, look, you're just lucky. You're still stupid. You're just lucky. Yeah, and I gotta say that's really dumb. for a allegedly smart man, and you gotta figure he's got some level of intelligence. I mean, he created a comic book character that made him a lot of money, and that's not like accidental. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not one of these guys that thinks that like everyone that has money, they're just lucky. I don't think so. I think that obviously there's some intelligence there for sure. And Dilbert was funny. I mean, I didn't read it religiously, but I read Dilbert before, and it's pretty good. It's like the precursor to Office Space. It's good. Dilbert is good. So anyway, let me talk about this coin flip thing because this is the thing. It's like, if you had to decide whether the vaccine worked or not, and that was the decision, right? and you're just a regular Joe, you're not, in the lab doing the tests. You don't have the data. You're just a regular Joe, and you're watching TV, and you're trying to figure things out. And somebody, puts a gun to your head, and he says, look, you need to decide right now if this vaccine works, yes or no. And if you don't decide, I'm going to kill you. All right, that's the scenario, right? If that's the scenario, then I might be able to agree with him. It is a coin flip. You don't really know. You're just a regular Joe. Even if you had the studies, you might not, maybe you might not even be able to read the studies, right? Like you don't have the training to read the studies, to know what you're looking at. And so maybe, if you're just a regular Joe in the streets, you're not in the lab, you're not doing the tests, you're not doing the statistics and all that kind of stuff. And the question that's being asked of you is, does the vaccine work, yes or no? Pick right now or you're done. Yes, that would be a 50-50 coin flip. And I think there's some other factors at work, of course, that make it, I think, not quite a 50-50, but at least I could understand his point, right? If that was the question, does the vaccine work, yes or no? But that's not the question. That's not how this all went down. You see, like this is the kind of coin flip that he's talking about here would be like if somebody came up to you and they didn't have a gun, they didn't put a gun to your head, nothing like that. And they said to you, look, let's do a coin flip, right? Heads, I'm going to take heads, right? Or I'm going to take tails. You take heads. Heads, I'll give you $50, right? $50 in your pocket right now. Tails, if I'm taking tails, if it's tails, you give me everything you own. If it's heads, you get $50. If it's tails, you give me everything you own. Remember, there's no gun to your head. There's no nothing. It's just a straight up coin flip, right? $50 versus everything you own. Let's flip the coin. What would you say to that? What would you say to that? Well, you have to be like, no, I'm not flipping that. That's a ridiculous bet. Like it's a 50-50 shot. And if it turns up my way, I get just $50. It's no big deal. If it turns up your way, you get everything I own. That's not fair. I'm not playing that game. You see, that is what he's forgetting. He's rewriting history, right? Because the question isn't whether the vaccine worked or not. The question was, do you want to get the vaccine? And what you had to gain was relatively little compared to what you had to lose. And that's the point. Most of us, when we decided not to get the vaccine, we were not making any determination on whether or not the vaccine worked. What we were saying is the risk reward is not there. Is simply not there. Risk reward. This is what I was talking about from like the beginning of COVID. You've got to weigh the risks with the possible reward. Everything you do in life is a potential risk, and there's also potential reward. So let me give you an example. Right now, and this is going to change. I'm switching churches, on good terms, but this is the situation right now. Every Sunday, I drive 1 hour to church and 1 hour back. And I drive through mountains because I go to church in Vermont, and I drive on highways and stuff like that. And there's a certain risk every time I get into that car with my family. There's a certain risk that that drive will be the last drive I ever take, because there's a risk of getting into your car and going for a drive, right? There's a risk. There's also a reward, and the reward is that I get to worship God with my family at my church, with my pastor, with my co-parishioners and everything. That's the reward, right? And in my universe, the reward far outweighs the risk, right? Far outweighs the risk, and so I do it. But with the COVID vaccine, the risk reward just wasn't there. The risk seemed very high because they did a rush job on the vaccine, and that's not really something that we typically do. And they've said, look, a new technology for vaccines. And it's like, that doesn't really, I don't want to really be a guinea pig. And especially considering the low downside I had for getting COVID. I actually did get COVID allegedly. I say allegedly because I'm not even sure. And you know what? I got a cold. I got a fever. I felt crummy. And that was that. I mean, that's happened to me before. And it was no big deal then. And it was no big deal now. And it's like, so the risk reward just wasn't there. The risk of going to church is low. The reward is very high. The risk of getting COVID is low. And the reward of potentially being protected from that is very low as well. And so this is the thing. It's like, that was a weird example, but you get my point. You get my point. And so the risk reward is not there. It's like, it reminds me of that scene in No Country for Old Men where the crazy psychopath goes into the convenience store and he wants to kill this guy, but he only does things with a coin flip. And he tells the guy to call the coin, and whether or not he says heads or tails, he's going to kill him or not. And it's like, if this guy was a psychopath, so you had to call it, otherwise he was just going to kill you anyway. But the point is, like, if you had the choice, and he's like, call it, but one of your choices was, I don't want to play, and then he just walk away. Of course you just don't play. You don't have to play the game. You see, this is the whole point of this video, right? Because that Dilbert guy he's just trying to make himself feel better. He thinks he's very, very smart, and he can't imagine making the wrong decision, so he's just saying, oh, it's a coin flip. It's a coin flip. But the point is, guys, you don't have to play every game you're offered to play. If the game is rigged, don't play it. If the game isn't worth playing, don't play it. It's just unbelievable. You don't have to do the coin flip when someone comes to you and says, look, heads, I'll give you $50. Tails, you give me everything you own. There is an option to say, go pound sand and go find another sucker. I'm not playing that game. That's the thing. Like the regime is going to try to get you to play every one of their stupid games, right? They're going to try to get you in the metaverse to play their stupid stuff. They're going to try to get you, to participate in certain markets that they're going to rig and stuff like that. They're going to try to get you to play all kinds of games. And the risk reward is going to be stacked against you. You don't have to play. You can just refuse to play and do your own thing and play your own game, because this is how we win, by the way, right? They've got their whole setup politically. I really do think this is akin to politics, right? They've got their politics, they've got their voting machines, they've got their little systems and circus show that they do every few years. And it's totally rigged. There's no reward, and it's only risk, right? There's only risk into getting you trapped into the little scam, but there's no reward, right? Even if you get your Republican in there, he ends up being a tranny. You know what I mean? So they've got their little system, and they've got you entertained by this ridiculous. You can just say, nah, I'm not playing that game. And I would argue that's the way forward, man. That's the way forward. You don't have to be like the Dilbert guy where you're like, oh, just a coin flip. You have to pick yes or no. It's like, nah, I don't have to pick anything. I'm just going to walk away and go about my business. That's the way forward. I think the COVID vaccine situation is it's a really good parable for just how to deal with this regime going forward. You don't have to play their stupid, rigged, ridiculous games. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. God bless.